we're going. Hello, welcome into Outland Allies. Tonight, I am Alex. Tonight, we're going to go over some of that preseason stuff. You know, when you first step in the woods, it might just feel like the brush, trees. But, you know, when you get out there, we got to know what we're looking for. The woods is talking, you know, trying to tell us a story. Every track, every broken twig, every contour line on the map, it tells us something different. Tonight, we're going to break down that story for you a little bit, from animal sign to terrain features, so you can move through the woods with a little more confidence and purpose next time you are out there. Like I said, I'm Alex with Outland Allies. This is the Outpost, and we usually do this stream on Wednesdays and Sundays. I post full-length content on Thursdays and Sundays. This week's Thursday episode is going to be a fishing trip with me and Nymeria. Was it bomb or was it bust? Let us know what you think down in the comments. And this week, Sunday, is going to be that full week preseason setup where we're going to give you some of those visuals, go over some of these things we're talking about, give you some like a real look at a topographical map, how to use a compass, a few of those things like that. So stay tuned for that on Sunday. That will be coming your way. But welcome in tonight. I hope you are having a wonderful Wednesday night. Happy hump day to you. Glad to have you in on the stream. Know tonight what we'll be covering. I think one of the first things we kind of want to talk about, I'll flip the camera around and try to show you some pictures. But like I said, stay tuned for the Sunday episode, not stream, but the Sunday full length we will be dropping. On that stream, we will go ahead on that full length, we will go ahead and we'll have all visuals for these things that we're talking about, show you actually how to use a compass, read a map, what we're talking about, looking around creek beds, streams, food sources, bedding areas, tracks, game trails, all of those types of things that we'll be covering tonight. So let's go ahead, and what we'll do is we'll bring up a Google image for you real quick. Yeah, hey, what's up? How are you doing this evening, Abby? Let us know what we are going over. I'm just kidding. I know what we're going over. We're going out being in the woods. So the first thing we kind of want to go over is just some of those normal animal tracks you're going to be seeing out there. Let's see if we can go over at least most of the normal ones. Let's flip this around for you. Look, we are on Real Tree's website. Feel free to jump there. A lot of these things can be found on DNR, right? But these are the things that we'll typically be looking for while we are out in the woods. A lot of the things you'll be seeing Alex look for in Nymeria are going to be the deer tracks, which are those two hoofs that kind of look like our knuckles that are pointed, right? From your baby appointment. Love to hear that. Man, that sounds crazy. Is going to be looking for our deer, our rabbit, and then if we see them, I don't know if it has it on here. We don't have it on there, but our squirrel tracks. We'll go ahead and flip them back around and we'll kind of visually talk through some of those. So, you know, the deer is that heart-shaped footprint with the two pointed toes. Walking deer leave tracks typically in a straight line. You know, your running deer, this is just kind of going to give us what they were doing when they came through that area are going to be spread further apart. Now, the key to looking at tracks is usually fresh tracks have crisp, distinguishable features, right? Look really fresh. Like if you've ever been out in the snow and when you step in the snow, you can read the boot print. You can almost tell the type of boot that person was wearing, right? You can see the little Nike swoosh or whatever it is they have on the bottom of their shoe. But as time goes on, as wind gets to it, as it's been run over, those details start to fade. So our deer footprint is going to be that heart-shaped footprint with those two pointed toes. The turkey, we're going to have those three long prong tracks, right? 4 to 5 inches long. One of the biggest tells that it is a turkey and not some wild chicken or pheasant or something like that is going to be those scratching areas nearby. And typically those prongs are going to be 4 to 5 inches long. So you're talking about a good size foot on those good old toms. How are we doing, Ruben? I hope you are having a great day. Abby, by the way, congratulations that you have a 2-week-old baby. Love to hear that. Raccoon, the best way it was described it to me, if you know we got a raccoon or not, a raccoon she looks like a child's handprint. So that's The best way to describe it, typically the best place to find your raccoon footprints are going to be around creeks, ponds, stuff like that. So if you ever see something that looks like a little kid's handprint, like they got right down near the water, that's going to be a good indication of raccoon. Squirrel is going to be our small paired prints. Typically, they look like the little, I guess, other way is squirrel feet, but they're paired together. Typically, with squirrels, you're going to see the feet side by side, whether that's front or back foot. They are typically on at least two of their 4 feet at a time. Coyote are going to look an awful lot like dog, typically ovaled with four clawed toe marks, right? Usually in straight trails like wandering dogs. Some of the other things we can look for besides animal tracks while we're out there, right, are droppings. That might sound silly, but that's a pretty good indication of whether, oh, thank you, thank you. You're the best too, guys. Thanks for joining in tonight. If you like what you're seeing, make sure to hop over and subscribe as we grow. Like I said, this Thursday, you'll be getting a fishing trip with me and Nymeria over at my friend Michael's house, but it's on a public lake, so do know we were just using his dock. What was I going to say? Was it bomb or was it bust? Let us know what you think in the comments. Do know though, when you are out in the woods, not getting our game is sometimes the nature of the beast, especially when you are out on public land, right? But back to what we were talking about, another thing we can look at besides track are droppings and being able to distinguish what type of droppings we're looking at. Now, I'm not telling you have to go pick it up or taste it or do any of those crazy like tracking things you've seen in the movie, but just simply, observing it can give us a good indication of what animal it is. With deer, we're typically going to have those small pellets, clumped together, not scattered as much. You might get them scattered as in multiple piles, but typically, thank you so much. I hope you have a wonderful day too. You're going to get them with in like their piles. I would tell you that if the darker they are, typically indicates the fresher they are because that means they still have the moisture in them. Most deer are typically like other, large mammals like that. They're ungulate, eat a lot of grasses and stuff. I mean, they do eat berries and things like that, but a lot of grasses. So as the poop dries, it's going to not be as dark. Rabbit is going to be not quite as pellety. It's going to be more round, and they're going to be bright brown pellets and piles. Well, that's great. Turkey is going to be kind of coiled, segmented. I say J shape. Uh, is kind of your gobbler. That's going to be your indicator what kind of turkeys you're looking at. And then if it's a straight, that's more of your hen. So if you're looking at a kind of coiled segmented turd, if it's more J shaped, I hate to say that, you're typically going to be a tom or gobbler. If it's more straight, it's going to be hen. Predators like your wolf, coyote, fox, bobcat, things like that, that's typically more tubular shaped droppings, typically going to have fur and stuff like that inside, like most of your big predators like that. They clean themselves by licking themselves, so they're going to have a lot of that fur that's keeping them warm or helping them shed that heat. It's going to have that in their droppings, so be on the lookout for that. Another thing we can be looking for is, kind of those anomalies in those baselines is those bedding areas. For deer, one of the things we're going to look for is some of those large grass fields. You're going to see a big oval depression, so to speak, like looks like somebody had been laying there. And the leaves, pine needles. I would say, common, especially in the tall grass area or leawood ridges. And by leawood, I mean not exposed to the wind, right? Now you have bears are around, yes, or some other type of predator. That's typically what you're going to have in that animal scat like that are predators. The reason I would say it's not going to be in deer as much is they're not cleaning themselves the same way, nor are they eating game with fur in it. So do know that. But in our bedding areas, we do have oval depressions, typically in like your tall grass, lowland areas. Like I said, leeward side of ridges. And what I mean is the side of the ridge. If we had a ridge on a hill right here, right? I'll make a hill the best I can. And the wind's coming from this way. The leeward side's going to be over here. You're not exposing the wind. It's going to be keeping them warm, in that bedding area, going to help cover their scent and things like that from predators because, deer are prey animals. They are going to run. That is their thing, flight. Why do you think so many people hit them with their cars? They don't stand there. They take off and run because that's what they do best. Uh, Turkeys, a bedding area, what you're looking for is kind of like what do we call like a dust bowl or wing drag marks, and like leaves kind of look like, they're pushed together or making an area for it. Um, Rabbits are kind of like those small forms or look like tunnels underneath bushes on the side of trees, kind of like in mounds. Do know that's what we're looking for rabbits. So other things that we can look for that are going to start indicating that animals are in the area is just like humans. You have to have those food sources. I pray every night. That's good. Or those food sources. You're going to have like some of those hard mats like acorns, white oak, red oak. The things you're looking for is like acorn, hickory, walnut, ash, things like that. Then we have our soft mass food sources, things like persimmons, apples, berries. I would argue that typically in a lot of those places, those are like just like us, sugars and stuff are going to speed up that dietary process. So we're going to have a lot of droppings in those soft massed areas or soft food areas where we have the berries and the apples and things like that, where you might not see that as much around those acorns and, nuts and other, hard foods like that, just like us, the fiber going to, do what it does. Bro, I have to leave at 10 p.m. tomorrow morning. Where are you going to? But another thing we can look for is when we're looking for like to see if they've been browsing, we can look some of those nip twigs or saplings. If it's a clean kind of like 45-degree cut, like snip off the branch, we're going to know that's a deer, right? Where if it's going to be more of that shredded or broken kind of end of the branches, that's going to be more of your rabbit, squirrel, rodent type creatures because they're going to gnaw more than nip, right? Um, have you guys ever seen any of these things that I'm talking about out there so far? If so, drop it down in the comments. Let me know some of these things you've seen, or maybe an indicator you feel like I've missed so far and haven't covered. So far we've gone over our animal tracks, our droppings, our bedding areas, our food sources, and now one of the most important ones we're going to go over is our water source. Game trails leading to, which is like those small, they almost look like walking trails, but you can't fit down them, or they look like they lead off into the brush. Um, the water sources, we want to look for those game trails around them, showing that animals are using that water source specifically. Those creeks, those ponds, or even those little, as we call them in the Marine Corps, wadis, little areas that water comes through consistently and is fresh. Oh, love it. I'm trying to be your friend out there in the woods, so glad we could help out. And around those water sources, a way to tell if it's being used, if you're not seeing necessarily grain trails or you don't have the foliage to indicate hard animal wear, because some of the grasses, don't break down as easily, or maybe it's not used as much, but it's still getting used. One of the ways to tell is we can look at like the muddy areas around the water. On most ponds, big puddles, we have a muddy bank or a soft area around that water, and we can look for those animal tracks be covered so we can see what type of animals are using it and how frequently they're using it. Because remember, we said those clean, crisp tracks are going to indicate how fresh those tracks are, right? Now, in the morning on live, I am over on TikTok, same username, Outland Allies, but that's just me, what I do for a living. We're working on becoming a content creator, one follower at a time, so feel free to give us a follow if you'd like. But our main job is being a golf professional. That is what I do during the day when I'm not creating content. It's what actually pays the bills. So check us out on TikTok. You tap the screen, we do push-ups in the pro shop. During live, you can see customers, all that stuff. Good time, keeps us fit, engaging with the people, just trying to send them over here, getting them into my actual content. But thanks for stopping by. If you're hopping off, what is that, Looney? It was great having you in this evening and even giving us a chance, seeing what we were about. Yes, golf professional, not a professional golfer. So I wish I played golf for money, that I was on TV and made lots of money playing golf, but I'm not quite that good. Um, yeah, well, you're a YouTuber. Love to hear that. Hey, if you ever want to get on there and hunt, let's go. Get out there, hike. If hunting's not your thing, fish, do whatever. I'd love to get out and collaborate, especially with some of the people who support us. I'm just like you guys. Yeah, except when I make my putt out there on the green, I don't make $20 million. I wish. We'll get there one day. Not with golf, but with YouTube, right? Be the next Mr. Beast. Mr. Beast the outsider. Let's take that better. Steve Irwin of Hunting, Fishing, Public Land right here. We're going to get people interested who aren't even interested. One day. That's right. Hey, everybody's got to start somewhere, and we're starting now. So welcome here. Glad you're an OG. Hopefully you gave us a follow. Thank you for that. Check out all the full length. The next thing I wanted to go into is our game trails. Like I said, we talked about the muddy trails. Let me tie in where I use a dog here. Nymeria uses her nose so she can help me out and get what I do not get visually. Now, like I said, I'm not using her to treat animals or anything like that, just retrieve game for me. I have lost game that I know I've hit simply because it's gotten away or, animals are built with like what I'm wearing, active camouflage. So when they get in the brush, sometimes it gets really hard to find them. And I think any animal that I have hunted and has made the sacrifice of giving its life to feed my family, I want to make sure that I'm utilizing and not letting go to waste. I think it's very imperative that we take care of our animal populations and things like that, especially for younger generations and other people to be able to do it, right? So I didn't grow up having private land, so I've always pretty much been a public land hunter. So I've always tried to take care of the area that I'm using because I know how many other people use it, and I want to always have the opportunity to get out there and keep using it. So, anytime you go out on public land, make sure you're picking up that trash when you see it, guys, right? Make sure you're calling people on their bull crap when they're doing things when they're not supposed to and poaching and stuff like that. There's a reason there's seasons. Just to wrap that into something earlier this year in my car, unfortunately, I did hit a deer, or let me say the deer hit me. I was coming to work and the deer ran into the side of my car and it was a pregnant doe. And I felt horrendous because the doe was pregnant and that meant that little fawn died too. And she was getting close to popping. But that's why we don't hunt at certain times of the year, right? We don't want to take an animal that's pregnant or nursing or something like that. We need to be smart. We need to be, avid hunters, and we need to be reporting and taking care of those people who aren't doing the right things out there. It just takes one butthole to ruin it for everybody. So yeah, you have that. But so that's why I use Nymeria to help me get the game. I don't actually use for training. Like actually, if I pop a dove or something, just go out and retrieve it for me, bring it back. She does really well with gunfire, but I don't try to expose her to too much because I care about her hearing too. I've lost a lot of hearing from being in the military and shooting a lot of guns. I was in the Marine Corps infantry. Woo, go me! But so I know the importance of hearing protection and how loud gunfire can be too. So I even try to take care of my animal that takes care of me. A couple things we would like to go over is before you go out there, if you do have it, I know a lot of people nowadays use, Onyx Hunt or uh, Google Maps or stuff like that. Some of the things I'd like to point out is learning how to read a topographical map, right? That can be, I don't know, paramount. And before, knowing areas to look at before you even go out, right? Forgive me. I wish I had a water. I mean, being disgusting having a Coke. Sorry. So one of those things on those topographical maps you're going to see is those contour lines, right? There's just those lines running through the map, go different directions, squiggle, all those things. So the closer they are together, the steeper the slope. The further that they are apart, the flatter the ground, right? So where you see, I'm going to try to keep explaining some of these things to you. Like I said, check back on Sunday when we post our full length. I will show you on a topographical map a lot of these terrain features and stuff like that. I just figured on stream we could talk about it. If you have any questions, drop it down there. If you say, Alex, you're terrible at explaining things, I'll try to get better. I'm sorry. But do know when we have those closed circles on the map, that is usually an indication of a hilltop. And when we have those closed circles with hatchers, and what I mean, it'll be like a circle on a map. Or let me just show you, right? We'll draw it real quick. Please don't judge me. Definitely not an art major. Definitely not an art major. You're going to get like a closed circle like that with these little hatchers on them. And what that's going to indicate is a depression or a loss in elevation, right? U shapes pointing uphill typically indicates valleys. If they're pointing down the hill, that's going to indicate your ridge. So if the U is going up, that's going to be a valley. If it's going down like this on a map, yeah, absolutely, man. Keep coming back and we'll keep trying to feed you all that information. If those circles are going up going upwards, that's typically indicating like a ridge or a spur, which is a smaller ridge line, right? Navigation. Uh, no, when we are using the map, it's important to orient yourself. I would argue that a lot of grid maps are oriented north typically, but that's where you need to look at the legend and ensure that you are oriented, where the map is oriented towards the north. Or if it's not, that you are understanding which way you're oriented or faced, so when you get out there, you don't get turned around. That is very important. Um, One of the things you can do, especially when you get out there on the map, is go ahead and mark some of those trailheads or creeks or landmarks on the map. So, if you see them on the map while you're out there, you're like, oh, it's this one or there. So I know I'm here, right? Some of those big things we can look for are ridges, hard bends or turns in creeks that would be very easily noticeable if you were there, right? Um, the other things we can look for, if especially on some public lands you can find, are old rail lines. One of the ones that was up in Ohio. Now you couldn't hunt on it, but they did have a graveyard out there, so that's a great terrain feature to help orientate yourself on a map. So do know where those terrain features are, and some of those things are on the map. So when you are moving around, if you get lost, when you run into some of these things, you can be like, "Oh yeah, I'm here." I could get out there and show you how to do a 2-point resection. Hey, Burhan, or something, some of those things, or how to use an actual grid map. Some of those navigation skills we use in the Marine Corps are paramount. I do know a lot of people use those, battery powered GPSs and things like that, but I think um, it would behoove you to have that, behoove you to have that knowledge, because I will tell you from being in country like that, when you need technology, it fails. So having the skill sets are always critical. Um, we can talk about how to do trying. If you guys would like me to do one specifically on land nav, how to read maps or something like that, drop down in the comments, hit the like button, shoot me a message. However, you can let me know you'd like to see that. I'll happily go over that stuff for you guys. Like I said, the other ways we can do on map tools are like our Onyx, Hunt Stand, Google Earth. Use property lines, topo overlay, satellite imagery. Um, So now that we're talking about maps and especially topographical maps, I think there's at least uh, two, three, four, five, six, about six terrain feature every outdoorsman should know and be able to recognize on a map. I think the first one is a ridge or a spur or finger ridge. It's a long, narrow, high ground dropping on either side from a ridge. On a topo map, it's a U or a V pointing downhill, right? Animals use ridges for wind advantages and travel. If we can get up high, we can see. So knowing where some of those ridges are can help us orientate ourselves on a map or get us up and get us a visual, right? A saddle is a low point between two ridges. On a topo map, it kind of looks like a pinched hourglass, something like that, right? It's going to be a saddle. Typically, when you have your saddle, it's going to be a high point, right? So a good thing we know, if you've ever seen the movie 300, right? Choke points. Game typically funnels through saddles. It's an easy mode of travel because just like us, I'm not going to say they won't push through brush and things like that, but animals are just like humans. They want the path of least resistance. So saddles are going to help that, right? Um, yeah, sure. Another one is a draw or a gully. It's a water carved depression. It's a U or a V pointing up the hill. Remember, we talked about that. Ridges down, up, right? That one point, a draw or a gully are typically safe travel corridors, right? So that's good to know. Another one I would like to say is a creek bottom, obvious, a low contour. There's always going to be shadier in that area, right? Wildlife typically goes to where water is at. So if we know where our creek beds are at and where our low-lying shaded water are at, that can help a lot. And then edge transitions, like where two habitats meet, where it switches from grassland to woodland or woodland to mountain range to desert. Being able to recognize that on a map can help orientate us as well. Mm-mm-mm-mm-mm. Guys, is there anything you feel like I missed on the stream tonight about what we went over? Tonight I think we went over some of the great things. We went over the signs we can look for while we're out there, the maps we can use before we get out there, the features we can use on those maps to help us locate game, right? using those saddles, those ridges, those draws, natural lines of drift. Yes. Sorry. Apologize. So, what Mr. Cash is talking about, natural line of drift, and that's where I was talking about using the settle or path of least resistance, right? A natural line of drift is a path of least resistance that animal and people tend to use when they're moving through terrain. I mean, you can talk about where something like that, the way to think about it is the way water flows downhill, right? Along the easiest route. Wildlife follows those same things. So what he's talking about are NDLs or NLDs, natural lines of drift, are going to indicate the path of least resistance on maps. So that's a great thing to know as well. Thank you for throwing that out there, John. Yeah, I wouldn't say I am the most expert land navigator, but I can do pretty good. I can get you 10 points on the grid map and get you within 10 meters, usually of what you're looking for, right? Some of those things I'll throw out there for navigation, especially if you're going out into the deep wilderness, right? You don't just have some of those cookie cutter public hunting spots. Important things you should do before going out is setting a pace count. And what that is for is knowing how far it takes you or how many steps it takes you to walk 100 meters. So when you're using a grid map or a GPS, you can know if your GPS fails, you can know how far you've walked and stuff like that. That's something I can always throw out there to you. Would love to, I guess we could do something on actual land navigation if you guys would love to see that. I mean, we are hunting, fishing, hiking, all those things, and that would absolutely do with hiking is land navigation and being able to find things out there. Because especially when you get out on some of those hiking trails, everything is not clearly marked. So being able to find where you're going is, could save your life. But guys, so we went over tonight. We went over the type of animal tracks, the styles, what they look like. We went over maps, apps, stuff like that, and then we went over some of those topographical features, right? We went over bedding sites, how we can find those, what we're looking for. We went over water sources, food sources, the hard food versus the soft foods, what we're looking for, how we can find those, right? We talked about what type of bedding areas would indicate what type of animals, how even droppings can let us know the type of animals in our area. One of the biggest advices I would give to you is when you first get out into the woods, find you a nice spot to sit down. Take 5-10 minutes, let the woods quiet down, really take it in, observe, take at that time an opportunity to observe the natural land features you can see. If any of those key features that you've marked on the terrain stand out to you from where you're at, go ahead and take that time to orient yourself. And you'll notice if you go ahead and give yourself that 10 minutes when you first get into the woods to sit down, shut up, and observe how much the woods light up and start telling their story. Back to what we told, the woods will tell you the story. They'll tell you where the game's at. You've just got to know what you're looking for and how to find it, right? So thanks for stopping by tonight, guys. If this is your first time on the stream, no, this is the Outpost for my main stuff, Outland Allies. We do want to go over that. I'm sorry. Apologize, lost my train of thought. This is, and I also thought I didn't read a comment there. I do try to get to all of your guys' comments. Obviously, I don't have like 1 million subscribers yet or anything, so it's not like my chat's going. But I tried to read everybody, throw something down there. This is the Outpost, where I go over all those things that make you successful hunting, fishing, hiking out on that public land. Because I grew up watching those guys like Steven Rinella and all those hunting shows, and I came to find out very quickly that I did not have access to most of those land or tools or equipment because it was well out of my price range. So let me be the field guide for you. On the Outpost on Wednesdays and Sundays, we will talk about the things or topics we're covering. So this week we're going to go out. Your full length on Sunday is going to be me going out with Nymeria and doing a preseason scout, show you how to do that, how you get set up for that, how we look at maps, what we're looking for, covering back over some of these things that we've talked about in the stream, right? This Thursday, we do have a fishing trip coming out for you. We just did a little morning trip. Went out there trying to do some bass fishing over at a friend's house, but on a public lake. Was it bomb? Was it bust? We had a great time either way. We will learn together. We will grow together. Thank you for giving me some time. If this is your thing, Make sure to hit that like button and subscribe. Join us at all of our opportunities so you get that notification bell every time we're on or we drop a new video. No, our full lengths typically come at you Thursday and Sunday evenings. Thursday evening is going to be like our product reviews and obedience session, just our shorter content, full length content, 3 to 10 minute videos. And then our Sunday videos are going to be those 10 to 20, 30, 40 minute, however long they go, however long it takes to get out, whatever we're doing in that episode, whether it be a full deer hunt, a full squirrel hunt, how to skin a squirrel, how to, whatever it is you like to see, how to start a fire, a camping challenge for an entire weekend on $100, seeing if we can thrift all of our stuff for 50. We'll start throw some ideas down there for me when you see it or comment on the videos. If there's some challenge you'd like to see me do, we'd love to give it a go. But our hunting season is coming up, about to be in full swing. So stay tuned for all that full length action that's about to be coming your way. Do know we will be doing a lot of small game hunting early. I will let you know if you're new to this and you haven't heard me say it. Once deer season's out there, we'll be bow hunting. Once rifle season kind of comes in the area of the world that I am in, I get out of the woods. I don't trust that many people that I don't know with high power firearms around me. I don't care whether I'm wearing orange or not. Bow hunter is not quite as bad, but high powered rifles, all these people I don't know, stay on your private land, have a good time. I'm just not going to go out on the public land during that time. That's just me. But thanks for stopping by this evening, guys. I hope you had a great time. I hope you learned a thing or two. I'm glad you took the time out of your busy day just to stop by and see if this was something that was worth your time. So thank you. No, we're growing together. I love each and every one of you. And as we always say, remember to roam further, stay wild, and we'll see you on the next one.